Invocation and pledge.
Sure. Please stand and join us. Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for this opportunity to assemble here and to serve our citizens. Lord, I just ask that you bless this meeting tonight, God, with a special prayer for those, our neighbors north of us in both South Carolina and North Carolina, that you be with them as they go through this recovery from this storm. Just be with them and comfort them. Lord, we ask all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If you would like to participate, we have several opportunities to do so. We have a citizen to be heard at the beginning and another at the end. You can speak on either of those items of your choosing, and also on each individual agenda item. If you will, please fill out a speaker card with Miss Patty for each item that you would like to speak on. And also, if you happen to be here for item number 15 and 16, which is the Wakulla Aaron comp plan change, that item has been pulled by the applicant, so it will not be on the agenda tonight. You're still welcome to speak, but it will have to be done during citizens to be heard. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we have the airport authority item that was sent to you all last Thursday. It didn't make it onto the official agenda, so we're adding it on to general business now.
Business, got it.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. We have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right. We'll start out with citizens to be heard. We'll hear from Mr. Gerald Fielder. If you will, please give us your name and address and speak into the microphone so the folks at home can hear you as well.
Yes, my name is Gerald Fielder, 6 Bridlegate Court, Crawfordville, Florida. I'm here concerning an update on the boat ramp at Lake Ellen. It's been a long time. I've been speaking to Dave about this, and understand that DEP and that situation that they had, I guess a lawsuit, whatever, has been resolved. The one, and I see that the fence has been partially taken down, and I also see that Dave said something about you could launch a boat there, but hard to launch a boat without a boat ramp. One of my other fellows who was going to be with me tonight could not be here, and he has a question as to why the trees and the brushes and stuff has not been removed so that we can have access to that. Also, in other thing, being kind of lost in all this, I would like to request the board to see if you can get me the transcript of the lawsuit, the thing that went on, so that we can have a better understanding as to exactly what took place there and where we're at with that, if that's possible.
Which lawsuit are you referring to?
Between DEP and...
My understanding was that we went to DEP, the board did, and got an okay to put a boat ramp in, and that was done. My understanding, I could be wrong, but then this lawsuit came up between DEP and I guess Steve, and so we haven't got anything done there.
Okay, I think you're mixing a couple of things up. If you want information about the enforcement action that DEP brought against Mr. Foltz for the fence, that's not something the county was a part of, and so you would have to get that information from DEP. We don't have it.
So you didn't get anything on that at all?
We've gotten a draft unsigned consent order. That's all we have. That's all I've seen.
That's all that was done?
That's all I've seen. I don't know what was done because the county was not a party to that.
No, I was hoping they would go ahead and deal with the fact if it's private lake or public lake and get it done, get it over with. But I guess we're still out there swimming, with it.
Now, if you want the transcripts and stuff from the county's boat ramp permit that got challenged by Mr. Foltz, that is something the county has, and that's a public records request you could make.
I'd like to have that if I could, and can I get the other transcript from this other, from DEP, and all
You
that?
would have to make a request to them. I don't know what they'll give you before it's final, because it's not finalized yet, but
Mhm.
that's something that you'd have to make a request to DEP. I don't have that information. For the county records,
Just come and see Miss Virginia.
All right.
Just see Miss Virginia.
I'd like to have all that you have. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That ends our citizens to be heard. We'll go into public hearings, item number 1. Let's see. This is the second of 2 required public hearings on the Wakulla County budget for fiscal year 2018-2019. If you wish to speak during the public hearing portion of this meeting, please step forward at the appropriate time. The final aggregate millage rate is 8.0000 mills, which is 2.43% more than the aggregate rollback millage rate of 7.8099 mills. Now the county administrator will read the final millage rate into the public record.
The proposed Board of County Commissioners of Wakulla County final countywide millage rate is 8.0000 mills, which is 2.43% more than the countywide rollback rate, millage rate of 7.8099 mills.
I am opening up the floor for a motion to begin the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. At this time, the individuals that have turned in a speaker card can speak. Patty, do we have any? None at this time. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Florida statutes require the board to address the final millage rate before addressing the final budget. The board must vote on the millage rate and the budget separately. I will now entertain the following motions. Motion 1, approve the Board of County Commissioners fiscal year 2018-2019 final countywide millage rate of 8.0000 mills.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Second motion to entertain, approve the Board of County Commissioners fiscal year 2018-2019 final countywide budget as presented by the Administrator on July 16, 2018, and as amended through the agenda process today.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. That ends public hearing item number 1. We will move to item number 2.
Yes, this is a request for the board's approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Land Development Code pertaining to zoning district regulations. These amendments would implement the recent updates through the ear-based amendments to the comp plan. Specifically, it establishes which zoning districts would be allowed in the new suburban transitioning land use, and also amends the references to Urban 1 and Urban 2 to Urban Fringe and Urban Core respectively.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Patty, any citizens on this one? Item number 2? Number 2?
Just for the edification, EAR stands for Evaluation and Appraisal Report, for those not in the planning world.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Very good. Further discussion from the board? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. That ends our public hearings. We have no awards and presentation.
To approve consent.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We have no consent items pulled. We'll go into the add-on item for general business, the airport.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In November of last year, this board directed staff to amicably work with the property owners in the Tar Pine residential subdivision to transition ownership and control of the Wakulla County Airport to the Tar Pine HOA as the legal entity that owns the reverter rights in that airport before it would revert back to the heirs. Since that time, your county staff has been working with the interested parties in that area in order to come up with a plan to put the airport on a path to success, but to to successfully
Succeed.
have the county not be the owner and operator of the airport. The Tarpine HOA, through meetings that they've had with the county administrator and through discussions that I've had with their attorney, has indicated to us that they've had three major concerns. One, and I'll make this clear because they did to us every time we talked to them, they really want the county to continue to own the airport. We indicated to them that staff does not have that direction, and so that is not something that we were going to negotiate with them. Two, in the event that the county was not the owner-operator of the airport, they wanted to ensure that Tarpine HOA as a nonprofit corporation was not the entity in charge of the airport itself. They see themselves as a homeowners association, and they did not want to be in the airport business. Three, they wanted to ensure that the airport would still be eligible for state and if it came to it, federal FAA monies in order to do the airport improvements that are needed down there in order to keep the airport's licensure. With those concerns in mind, we brainstormed and came up with the idea of creating a Wakulla County Airport Authority, which would be an independent special district. This would enable the county to transition the airport to this other special district. It would be a special purpose local governmental entity that would be eligible for state and federal grant monies. It would have its own board, its own governance. It would be responsible for its own grant agreements and compliance in the event it received those, can sue and be sued. And the county, while we would still work with them cooperatively going forward under terms of an interlocal agreement that we may negotiate with them under your direction, you would not be responsible legally for the airport going forward.
I'll make a contingent motion to approve the resolution and the proposed special act in substantial form, move forward, blah, 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 to create the airport. Contingencies are, before we spend any money on any surveys or anything, that staff gets with the legislative group, which is Halsey Bashir's. I talked to him earlier. I think you talked to him too. Make sure, because if Halsey's not on board with this, this is all moot. Because this is all through the legislature, nothing through us. We're just suggesting that the legislature approve this. Second is that once the survey is done, when Halsey's on board, it comes back to the board for approval, so we know that the boundary is where we're saying it is right now, which is, for the most part, the vast majority is just Tarpine subdivision or properties already associated with the airport, with the exception of those four pieces right there next to, what's the name of that road, Dave, that dead ends into the airport? Those
West side of West Bay Drive.
Those four little parcels right there is the only pieces that are, because I had a lot of calls from people saying, is this going to affect me? This authority will have no power outside of that red line, correct? None.
Well,
other than,
under FAA rules, they have the
can't-
ability to remove obstructions
okay,
and
they
things.
can't do eminent domain, they can't do special assessments outside of that red line, correct?
They are not, the district would just be within that red line, that's correct. Keep in mind that you're also considering a resolution tonight which gives approval in substantial form. In that resolution, in section 3 specifically, you are also going to be directing staff to continue to work with the interested parties in the airport area in order to come up with a potential interlocal that we'll bring back to you all. This will deal with things such as advice and coordination on planning activities and construction that may take place in the airport, whether the county is going to provide any initial financial support to them in order to get up and running. This would most likely be in the form of there is a need for the county under EMS to have a helicopter landing site, so we may be able to lease a helicopter landing site from them, and then give them those revenues in order to provide pay their liability and property insurance and things like that. We're going to need to provide assistance to transfer licensing and plans and grant agreements, or any terms and conditions where the county may provide assistance during disasters. We are the disaster planning agency for the county, so that's appropriate. and then any terms and conditions under which the county will provide continued, maybe in-kind support and assistance with grant applications and things like that until they get on their feet and are able to take the airport forward.
Basically speaking, the taxing district only applies to Tarpine.
There's actually no taxing authority.
Okay, so,
They're not granted taxing authority in the special act that we presented to you.
okay, so any property that's not in Tarpine will stay the same as it is.
Well, any property in Tarpine would also not
Stay
be.
the same.
They're allowed under the special act to impose non-ad valorem assessments if they have a project or a service that is going to provide a special benefit to property under state law, and they would also have the authority to adopt user fees and charges for uses of the airport.
I just had a citizen call me that he wasn't in Tarpine and he wanted to make sure that he wasn't taxed for anything that happened in Tarpine.
He would not.
The only, like I said, the only properties that aren't already associated with the airport are those 4. And David, I think you've already been in contact with the,
That's because that's a part of our JPA, and our master plan was to acquire those properties, and that's the only reason they're put in there. But also, that's the reason we wanted to make sure the survey came back to the board so that everybody, the public, everybody understood exactly what it was, because this is just a map that we drew lines on.
David, will we have to pay for the survey?
Yes.
And that's about 15 grand to
Correct.
have it surveyed. I'm okay with this, with a few exceptions. I'm not sure if we're still going to be engaged for whatever undetermined period of time with helping them. How much are we better off doing this at all, or just keep doing what we're doing? Because we're going to keep doing the same things we've been doing anyway
well,
for a while until these folks get on their feet. Well, how do you define?
Well, we won't be,
It'd be under an interlocal.
it'll be an interlocal, and we wouldn't be, the problem is the citizens, the taxpaying citizens of the county would not be on the hook for it.
remember the catalyst to this
Today.
too was that new change by the legislature saying that
noise
we had
survey.
to change zoning or restrict development around the airport if we hadn't conducted a noise study. So by giving it to them, that goes away, right, Heather?
Well, the issue with that was adopting language that, and then taking out grant agreements that incorporate that compliance, and then somebody later finding that what we adopted was not in compliance. Because remember, when we talked with you about this November, DOT had recommended that we could consider banning development but not do it. And we had concerns whether that would be something that a future DOT compliance officer may not agree with. So we may, going forward, the grants would not be county grants. And so we would not have that issue to worry about.
And I asked the question today at our meeting was, if this authority is carried out and they get grant, and we sign on with the grant, are we responsible for the grant?
We're not signing on to the grants.
As long as we don't, I understand, that's fine. The other issue I had was all those houses on Surf Road. If they carry on and make the airport bigger and more planes and bigger planes, is that, and I guess that's possible, do those folks have any say? And I think the answer is no, because they're not in the authority. They're not elected from within. Whoever's elected to this board has to, my understanding is, have to live in that red area. I'm just putting all this out here so we can all think about it.
Legitimate.
Are we doing the right thing? I think so. I think this is probably the best way to go.
I asked Heather the exact same question, and the only remedy to that is for us to keep the airport. That's the only way we'll have control over it.
If we want to control the development of the airport, then yes, that you keep the airport and you can control what is and is not done there.
What we had hoped for was a simple transfer of the airport back to homeowners. That's not going to happen because they don't want it.
Well, it could happen. I mean, you would basically, at this point, though, be putting the airport on them, and they would have really no way to bring it into compliance because they wouldn't be eligible for grant funds. And even under that circumstance, you still don't have control over what happens to the airport because it's no longer yours.
Well, and it would no longer become a public use airport at that point in time. It'd be a private use. Then they can do with it however they want
Well,
to.
actually,
And-
that's not accurate because then the heirs.
Well, the heirs, they would have to deal with the heirs at that point.
I mean, maybe this is the best approach we have to fixing the thing long term, but I'm fine with that. I hope they can elect a board out of those folks in that red area that are willing to do that and serve as that, and they can be
3 or
hired.
5? I thought it was 5.
It says 5 right now.
And they have to
If
be
you guys are
reelected.
concerned about that, we could suggest a 3-member board instead of a 5-member board. It might be easier.
I would certainly suggest
Did they set up, are there bylaws and all of how they're supposed to function in Florida law somewhere, or how do they do that?
They're a special district. They would be, the charter, which is what is proposed to you today, would be the ultimate binding document, for lack of a better word. It would be like their constitution or their charter, like the county charter, but they would adopt their own bylaws, the board.
I'm going to have to recuse myself because I have a lot in there.
Form with Kelly. So can they modify the 3 versus 5, or is that going to be in statute, whatever goes?
We can modify that if that's something you guys want. You can direct us to do that, and we can make that change before you approve it in substantial form tonight.
Halsey could change a lot of things before he says,
Yeah, and the legislature can
But
change
if,
it.
but if we didn't, if it passed as 5, after the board is in place,
Has to
would
go
it
back.
take another act of the legislature
would.
to change it?
I'd recommend
Yes.
changing it to 3, at least. Because, I mean, you got many people to serve. South Chapter can't even find people to be city commissioners.
What?
You made a motion, but you never kind of ended it. So what is the motion, Randy? So we know.
I made the motion that's option 1 on the board,
Okay.
but contingent on 2 things. Number 1, Halsey is on board, that we know I don't want to waste money on a survey if Halsey's not going
I
to
agree.
bring it forward. The other one is that staff bring back with the survey once it's finalized so we can see the final thing. And I'll add on to that we change it from what we're presenting from 5 members to 3.
I'll second that.
Can we clarify our legislative delegation, because it's going to have a Senate companion bill as well, correct? So we'll need Senator Mumford,
Well, Halsey, I talked to him
As
today,
well.
he said typically they go through the,
It's introduced
House.
by the House.
right?
and then the
we'll
Senate
get
just
with
signs
both
off
of
on
them.
it. But yeah, legislative delegation on board. Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
get with both.
Got a second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We have a couple of citizens. Ms. Cheryl Kirsteiner. Welcome.
Hello to the members of the board. Thank you very much for hearing me. I'm Cheryl Kirsteiner, 8 Stinson Taxiway. I am speaking as the president of the board of directors of the HOA and also as a primary stakeholder in the airport. And we thank very much the commissioners and the staff for trying to come up with a solution to this ongoing debate. The HOA is not able to take on the airport as a private use airport because we have no ability to protect the airspace at that point. We also have a reverter agreement with the heirs that requires us to keep the airport as a public use airport, or it goes back to them. So this is something that we like the idea, but we're not totally in support at this point. This came up just a few weeks ago, and quite frankly, we have been rushed to try to make decisions and answer our own questions to know if this is something that will be viable for a long-lasting airport for Wakulla County. And I need to just say that in contrast to many people's belief that this airport benefits only the people of Tarpine, that is a misconception. It benefits many, many individuals, both life-saving, military use, in a lot of different ways. That airport is beneficial. So it behooves Wakulla County to endeavor to keep it open and available for public use. Our attorney very much wanted to be here tonight, but he is the county attorney for Gadsden County, and they're having their budget hearings tonight. So that is why he is not with us tonight speaking on our behalf. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to say. I think that covers it. Basically, thank you, and we'll hope to keep ongoing communication going and hopefully find a happy resolution for the county and the users of the airport.
So you guys are in support of this action that we're about to take tonight?
We are in support, maybe not full support, just because we still have questions that need to be answered. We are doing our best due diligence to try to come up with answers to our questions. But because of the time restraints, we still have questions out there. It appears that this is a good solution, but we can't say that we're giving it total support at this point because we just don't know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clay Kirsteiner.
I could piggyback on what she said. When I asked Halsey if he knew where the airport was down here, he said that that's where he took his pilot's license test at. So other people do use it.
Clay Kirsteiner, he also ate Stinson Taxiway. I'm the much lesser half of the more eloquent of the two of us, and she's stolen most of my thunder. But I would like to point out a couple of things. We live right on the runway. We do utilize the airport, and we see much of what goes on at the airport. And I would piggyback on what she says with the mistaken idea that this is an airport that's only for the people of Tarpine community. It is not. I can attest to that. In fact, within the last 2 weeks, the weather was poor in Tallahassee, and we had 2 airplanes that arrived at the Wakulla County Airport. Being a congenial kind of guy that I am, I walked down and talked to them, and they were both very appreciative because they had few options on where they could go. They needed to get on the ground, and they were appreciative of the Wakulla County Airport. We do hear the military in there daytime and nighttime. They make noise. There's no question of that. We set up, as a volunteer fireman, we set up landing zones for EMS to come in for people from Franklin County as well as Wakulla County. They make some noise. There's no question of that. But those noises are the noise of safety and freedom. And the airport serves a much broader group of people. And consistently, the people in Tarpine, in the entire time that has been there, and really the time, the 40-plus years that the airport has been there, the bottom line has always been a public use airport. Nobody wants to exclude anybody from the use of the airport, and it has to be a public use airport for that reason. And the rules have changed. That's why we're in this quagmire, because the FAA and the government said, well, you have to have an airport that meets this standard, which was different than what it was 15 years ago, 25 years ago. So that's why we're in this dilemma. But the bottom line, to cut to the chase, is whatever is done has to be sustainable and viable to keep the airport open as a public use airport, or it will be shut down and one more asset of the county is just going to disappear, and people won't have the opportunity to enjoy Wakulla County on the south end. And I'll remind you that when things get really bad in Panacea, you can't get through there. That is the only way to get EMS into and out of Wakulla County, is that airport right there. Can they land in the road? Yes, they can. As a pilot, I can tell you that you don't want to land in something that's a square that has power lines all around it when you have an airport sitting right there and you know it has a distinct way in and a distinct way out, clear of any obstructions, and that is the safest, best thing for the citizens of Wakulla County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That ends our citizens. Further discussion from the board.
Is there a rush on this? Because it seems like we want to find out from Halsey. They haven't decided whether they like it or not. Couldn't we table this until next week, in 2 weeks, and consider it then?
I think we can, but, a lot has to be worked out between now and the session anyway. And so anything we do can be changed.
You're only approving it in substantial form. We're bringing it to you because we don't have any authority to go to the legislative delegation with a special act if you guys haven't seen it. The survey we know is going to take 5 weeks, and it is a bigger ticket item for a survey. And so we are rapidly running out of time.
And it is going to come back to us because we have to approve the survey.
Yeah, so now we have to bring that back to you too. So there's a lot of steps between here and November 20th.
And the interlocal agreement. Would the interlocal agreement be pinned down before it goes to the legislature?
No, it wouldn't be, because it's going to be an interlocal that would be with the authority. I mean, we can start working on that. I think we have some good outline of some of the provisions, but that it's definitely not something that's going to be approved before it goes to the legislature. Because if the special district falters at the legislature, there's no reason to have it anyway.
And we're not going to have any liability. They apply for a grant and fail, and they don't do it correctly.
You will not, unless
won't
you
have any
sign
liability.
onto a grant agreement, unless a future board signs onto the grant agreement. No, 'cause you're only, as you would not be under that contract for the funds.
Stop Chopping, getting their own grant agreement. Same difference.
Or St. Mark's.
You know, if we could delay it and talking to Halsey, there is a little bit of wiggle room here, but we would have to move quickly. That does crunch us by another 2 weeks, but still there is. If y'all don't feel comfortable, you could push it to the
You've
next.
answered, my main question was who is this going to affect? That was the main question I had. And I told you I thought I wanted to table it. But when I found out the boundaries of it, and we still have time to,
And you're gonna get the boundary approved by y'all anyway, so.
the only thing I'm a little leery about is spending the money for the survey. But I think, I talked to Halsey today, you talked to him, y'all are gonna talk to him again. He told me whatever the citizens of Wakulla County wants, he'll bring it before the legislator. And after he picks the football up, it's his ball. We're done. And if it passes legislature, it passes legislature. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Well, that's why I was kind of concerned about it, is because it didn't come out on the agenda. It wasn't announced completely. So to have the citizens weighed in, if all we have is positives for it tonight, so that would be fine. But we should have.
I did have Stan Brown call me. His concerns were addressed by the boundary. He won't be affected by it. And Stan told me, he said, I don't mind the airport being there. It was there when I moved here. I just don't want them to be able to tax me or assess me. They can't. That answered my question. So his concern, I'm sure, would be resolved.
He called me as well with the same.
Yeah.
And I've had a few citizens outside that red box that wanted to know if they would be impacted by any of the rules or legislation that they make inside that red box, and the answer is no. So I think this is probably the best solution that we've got. And it does end up ultimately putting it back in Tarpine's hands, because that's who is in there, is Tarpine folks are going to be on that committee, and I think this is about the best way to go. I hate that we got to spend $15,000 and may lose it. I mean, I won't say lose it, but I guess we need to have it surveyed anyway. Just hate to spend that money and not get an outcome.
It's the only way to move forward, though.
Okay, I'm fine. I say let's go on.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 3-1 with one abstention. All right, that ends our general business. We'll go into planning and zoning, item number 10.
Yeah, hold on.
Hold on.
I got to get back to the other part of my agenda. Okay. This is a quasi-judicial item. This is an application for a change of zoning, R1714. Golden Construction Company is the applicant. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the code, each commission member needs to disclose any contacts you may have received regarding this application. Commissioner Stewart.
I think none. Read the item again. I'm sorry,
It's the Golden Construction application for a change of zoning. This would take it from ag to C2.
I don't think I've received any.
I probably talked to him at one time earlier, but
I think maybe way back, last time around, possibly.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I think he called me 8 months ago, but I didn't talk to him.
I've spoken to the applicant.
Okay. If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, including the applicant, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Yes, this change of zoning application requests approval to change the zoning from ag to C2 general commercial on 9.25 acres located in the northwest corner of Cager Posey and MLK.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
second.
A motion and a second.
Let's let her get the rest of the description of the property. I'd like to hear, just so the public knows what we're doing.
Go ahead, Summer.
Yes, this application was reviewed by the Planning Commission earlier this year, who voted unanimously to recommend approval. The land use for this property is Urban Fringe, formerly known as Urban 1. This property is located in the Crawfordville Town Plan in an area conceptually identified for neighborhood serving commercial. The site is primarily outside of the flood zone, although there is some flood zone A on the property. Public notices went to property owners within 1,000 feet of the property, and the Wakulla News advertised this rezoning request in the August 30th edition. Staff is recommending approval.
Hey,
Is that better?
Yes, thank you. And now it helped me jog my memory. There was one citizen who contacted me in opposition to the rezoning, so I want to make sure I made that clear
Thank you.
in full disclosure.
All right, and we have the applicant available if needed. No other citizens to speak on this.
Since I contacted people within 1,000 feet, do you have any objections?
We have not received any written objections to this rezoning.
Further discussion from the board? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. We'll move to planning and zoning item number 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is another application for a change of zoning, R1809. Land of Wakulla, Inc. is the applicant. This is also a quasi-judicial item. So any ex parte communications you may have received regarding this item should be disclosed. Commissioner Stewart.
I spoke briefly with the applicant.
Which particular property is this?
This is
One right next to Bellamy's, or close to Bellamy's.
Uh,
It's close to Bellamy's.
Yeah,
It's on Benton Road in
no,
Crawford.
I haven't talked to him.
Okay.
None for me.
None for me.
I've talked to the applicant several times over the years about it.
If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on the application, including the applicant, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
This request for change of zoning is on a 4.74 acre parcel located at 9 and 17 Benton Road in Crawfordville. This zoning request is from the existing RR1 semi-rural residential to the LIC, the low intensity commercial zoning category. Planning Commission reviewed this request and voted unanimously to recommend approval. The future land use designation for the property is Rural 2. And this property is located within the Crawfordville Town Plan, immediately adjacent to areas identified for low-intensity commercial.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Further discussion from the board? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Next, we'll move to planning and zoning item number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for a change of zoning, R1811. Gulf Specimen Marine Lab is the applicant. This is to change from R1 to C4. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the Code, you need to disclose any ex parte communications you may have received regarding this application. Commissioner Stewart.
None.
And where would this one be?
It's Gulf Specimen Marine Lab?
Jack Rudlow's place.
On Rock Landing?
No, Gulf Specimen.
Okay. No, I haven't talked.
Let me back up. I did speak to Laura Edwards.
I spoke to Cypress Rudlow.
I spoke to Jack Rudlow.
I spoke to the applicant's representative.
Yeah, I didn't talk to the applicant. I talked to someone representing the applicant.
Okay. If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We do have Cypress. Do you want to speak?
All you can do is talk us out of it.
No, I'm good. You don't want to? Any question you want to ask me, y'all call.
Very good. Further discussion from the board? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Good job, Lauren.
Thank you, sir.
Cypress, good job.
Next, planning and zoning item number 13.
It's another application for a change of zoning. This is R1806. Stanley Price and Lee Knowles are the applicants and the property owners. This is to go from R1 to PUD. The property is located on the east side of Allison Avenue in Panacea. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the code, each commission member needs to disclose any contact you may have received regarding this application.
None.
No.
I spoke briefly to Bob Danzy.
None.
I spoke to John Taylor. He left. I did speak to him, even
I
though he
don't know,
left.
does he have, he's not a representative of the...
No.
I spoke to him as well, but he has nothing to do with...
Okay. I just want to be sure I disclosed everything. I talked to staff, too.
Yeah, if you received comments from somebody who's just on the, any comments on the
Well, I did
application.
speak from John Taylor.
Okay.
That's it.
If there's anyone here who is going to provide any information on this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth,
that-
the whole truth, and
That
nothing?
includes anyone that's filled out a speaker card.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
This change of zoning, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Requests approval on a 2.3 acre parcel from R1 to PUD located on the east side of Allison Avenue. This PUD requests approval for allowable uses such as an oyster nursery, oyster hatchery, retail and wholesale sales, as well as a teaching facility. The proposed concept plan will include 50-foot setback from the wetlands, which would allow for the construction of a dock and water intake and return pipes, bringing water in from the bay to the facility, and also proposes a 2,000 square foot structure. Currently, the site is undeveloped and is surrounded by state-owned lands and is located in the BE flood zone.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and a few citizens. Ms. Patricia Collins.
Commissioners, thank you for hearing me tonight. You know how important it is to have good neighbors, and we've owned our house at Clark Drive in Panacea for nearly a quarter of a century. This rezoning request is an obtrusive change, the change from residential to planned urban development with plans for a wholesale and retail business. PUD, starts with P for planning, and that is the subject that concerns me. I'm all for the oyster nursery. I think it's a great idea. But what we would like as neighbors is a good buffer. The property has dense coastal hammock vegetation on it now, and we're requesting that the subject property retain a 50-foot buffer of the existing coastal vegetation. That would really help us with the flooding, which is sure to come, with lights, noise, odor, and we have a house there and a business in front of that, a store that we lease, and this is really important to not only our quiet enjoyment, but that business. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Bert Cox. Welcome. Welcome.
I'm Bert Cox. I'm Tricia's husband. I rarely get a chance to agree with her publicly. I just didn't want to miss that. I support the whole idea of the oyster business, and particularly the care that Mr. Danzy talked about. They were going to give it, and I really liked it when you said you wanted to return clean water where it came from. One of the things I wanted to say about clean water is I'm really concerned about the effect of a paved road on water. I understand the road's only going to go in to about where the business is, and it's not going to. This, in case you've never been there, this road actually goes all the way back around to Walker Street, which is down by the park in Panacea, and runs down to the very simple boat landing there. I think it may not be a good idea for a paved road in there, because I don't like the idea of what comes off of a paved road ending up in the bay. And I think those oysters have to work too hard to clean that up. So I believe that our new neighbors are going to show us every consideration, but I think it's kind of our responsibility to remind them of what we're thinking about and what I want the business to come in. I want them to do well. I want Panacea to do well, but and I want to be a good neighbor. And in order to do that, I think it's my responsibility to tell our new neighbors what we hope they will do to be good neighbors to us too. Anyway, welcome. Hope you do well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Quill Turk.
I'm Mr. Quill Turk, and I'm here because I've been in this community for 20 years, and I don't mind more things coming in and doing it all, but we came into that area because of the families and the residential. And to change it to offices and other that are more involved in the sea and everything, I think it's going to lower the value of everything in that. So I just oppose it on that. I mean, I like Bob and what they're doing and all that. It's just that I think that it wasn't set up for that. It was really set up for residential. And that's my point.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Heinrich Friedman.
Heinrich Friedemann, 55 Erlison Avenue. We are the only permanent residents on Erlison Avenue, and we like the idea of a new business coming to Panacea, but Erlison Avenue is a problem which the county should be taking care of. It has been private, and in spite of it being private, there is a lot of traffic going through. There has been dumping all over the years. In the recent past, I had to call the sheriff twice because there were full truckloads of roof debris dumped into the woods, and they were wonderful and helped out and cleaned it out, but I don't think that's the business of the sheriff to come again and again to clean out such action. Now, Erlison is a dirt road, and it's in terrible shape, and we have been the only ones maintaining it as best as we could with limited funds, but we would like the county to take it over. They are very good in bringing sand to Clark Street, which is parallel to us. It would be no big deal for the county to send 1 or 2 truckloads of sand to Erlison, maybe once or twice a year. It would help me out a lot. Otherwise, one thing would be to curtail the traffic so there is no through traffic going through Erlison Avenue. People go there thinking it's a shortcut to, I don't know where to, but it happens all the time, and they don't care about the state of the road and its condition. I hope you can do something about that. Thank you.
Sir. We have a gravity sewer line runs down Allison Avenue, all the way to the old bank or Dr. Turk's office.
And last speaker, Mr. Bob Danzy.
Hello, fellas. My name is Bob Danzy, and I live at 43 Janet Drive. This is a unique situation for me because I agree with everybody on some level that just spoke. The gentleman, I agree with him more than any of them. I don't think we should have to pave it either. I think that we should have to save us money and make everybody happy. But I know that it's part of the PUD. Some kind of making the joke Summer because she said, Bob, you got to pave it. I said, come on, Summer. She said, I understood. It's just it's kind of a joke.
Let's just pave it all the way to the end.
Just, yeah, we'll just, yeah. The other, Dr. Turk,
I get it, I agree. It's residential. What we did was searched high and low. We searched, as a realtor, I put a lot of time into finding a lot on the water that's surrounded on both sides by state property and across the road with state property. I couldn't find anything any better to put something like this. So it's as isolated as it can be and be in a place where we can have sewer, because that was one of the things that we had to have. So it's a balance where the county put us in a box with the rules. We tried to fit in that box and found a place that was surrounded. So when the lady talked about a buffer, well, if we did 50 foot on both sides, we wouldn't have a place to put it because the lot's not that wide. But I get what you're saying. However, there's state land 5 acres or more. If you're at the road looking at the lot on the left, it goes all the way to 98. It's almost as state. And on the right is another lot of a general about equal size, 2 acres. And it's state. Across the road between Allison and 98 is state property. So I guess that's my biggest defense in saying we found the best place we could find to do this. Now, I had a lot to say, but once they spoke, I wanted to at least address it and tell them I agree and appreciate what they're saying. I'll touch on what I was going to say about what we're doing. It won't have any retail. It would be wholesale, and it would be employees and owners that would come and go, and 3 of the owners live out of town, so they're not there on any kind of a regular basis. Me and my son-in-law would be in there, and then we have about 5 people that work for us, so we've created some jobs. I think that's a good thing. I hope it helps Panacea. I hope we can overall make it better. Now, what it does for the water quality is oysters eat algae, but algae don't really hurt anything. It's just the nitrates. In essence, the fertilizers in the water grows algae. Well, oysters take those fertilizers out, or those nitrates out of the water. So, yeah, we will draw water in, much like Cypress does. I don't know if theirs goes straight through or if they're just using some water, but it's very similar to that. We will pull water up, run it through oysters when they get roughly about 3/8 of an inch in diameter. Then we move them out to the bay. It'll be a hatchery.
Bring it in.
I will. I got more to say, but Thurman's supposed to be here, but I think he got caught up in the rain. If you have any questions
for you. Yeah, I've got a question, Bob.
then I
On
can
your
answer those.
PUD document, the landscape plan here, it shows you got an entrance road going in quite a ways, then it starts at a parking lot, okay? And your document has proposed trees and shrubs, Maybe you could just leave the trees that are there now.
Love to do that.
And this, put the road, the narrowest road you can to access the site. That may help their concerns some, and it save you a lot of money.
I agree.
You'd like to hear that.
I do like to hear that, and I even mentioned it briefly to staff, is that as much as we can leave, we will, because it's thicker.
Would you commit
What we'll put
to
up.
agree that as a concession to the neighbors, you would only clear enough to make the road in and out? It is a two-way road, so I guess it's going to be 20 feet wide, it has to be.
Well, it'll be whatever the standards are, the county standards that y'all give us.
But what I'm saying is
or-
whatever native vegetation is you don't need to clear to make the road, can you
Let me
just leave it there?
Let me make sure that let me make sure it's something that you're talking about. You're talking about the road Allison Drive or the driveway into the building?
Driveway into your
On the
place.
property.
I
Once
want
you
it
get
as
on
small as possible, anyway.
And you'll leave the natural vegetation there that you don't need to cut down to build the road.
And I will commit to showing 50 feet. I don't think that's a problem as long as I got...
You can't give a 50-foot buffer in the front because you got to get to your property somehow.
Right.
So you're going to need
uh,
at least 20 foot wide to put a driveway.
to put a road in.
Randy,
You'll
that,
leave everything
I'll
other
leave
than-
everything up. I'd love to.
Randy, that property's like a jungle.
I understand.
As it sits, it's like a jungle, so
Yeah.
it would cost them twice as much to take things down as it would to put them back
Agreed.
up.
And
So-
I want to make these people...
And they're
happy.
going to
Absolutely.
be, I think your building or whatever you're going to be doing will be probably the 1/3 toward the water, with 2/3 of it being,
Well, Bob is
Pretty much
committed now
natural.
that they'll only clear enough for the driveway.
I don't even know if the driveway. That
Leave
makes
the
me-
rest natural. Summer, that'll help the landscape credits, right? It'll save him
Absolutely.
money.
And
Absolutely.
and as far as the 50 feet from the road right away, Allison Drive right away to where we start, that's fine with me as long as I got enough room, because I got to get 50 feet from the water or from the wetlands
before I can
Your
start.
site plan
So,
shows it
I
going
believe
in.
there's enough room.
It goes in quite a ways before the parking lot starts. It looks to me, I don't know if this
Yeah,
is to scale or not, but it's at least 60 feet off the road, looks like to me.
Agreed. And the only thing I'm saying is I commit completely to that. Just make sure I got enough to put what I want to put in there.
And will this come back as a final site plan approval?
There will be a site plan that'll be submitted if this item is approved this evening. Based on what they've proposed in their PUD, it will likely fall to an administrative review, but we'll definitely work with these property owners to ensure that they maintain the natural
won't see
buffer
it.
areas in lieu of installing new landscaping.
And noise was one issue. I guess I'm stepping over my time, but I'd like to address it because I know that the last meeting somebody mentioned it. But we use what is essentially pool pumps. And you know, as if you have a pool, a lot of times that pump is right outside somebody's window at their house.
Are you saying it won't be louder than Cypress's place, right?
Yeah, it couldn't be. Well, I assume you use quite a pump as you can get, and that's our goal. Because I don't want to hear it either when I'm there. So,
Thank you.
So it'll.
Can you speak to your customers approximately? How often do you have the, product coming in, product going out? Is it seasonal where certain months of the year, or is this going to be traffic every month?
The goal for the oyster industry is that it changes from seasonal to a year-round process. So as we raise a triploid oyster that can be grown all year, it doesn't reproduce, so you can eat it during the summer. So the idea is to have that, and what we typically would do is we have a refrigerated trailer, and we would take that, fill it up. The idea is once a week, and go make deliveries. But we would be coming in and out.
So you're not having customers coming to you to pick up the spat, you're going to be delivering them?
We had and the spat, probably we would deliver, because we would have a better facility than, say, one of the other oyster farmers. If you want to know the truth, we probably would deliver the spat. If we sold some, we probably would deliver them by boat. We just take it to the lease and give it to the person, and they put it right in the water, rather than taking them out. But I would tell you, and I've thought about this when we were writing the PUD, there's possibility of a UPS truck from time to time if we order stuff, a motor, or things like that you can't go here to the hardware store and get. Just that average thing. We'll have a mailman, I guess. Maybe we'll have a P.O. box. We won't even have that guy. So it'll be very minimal traffic. We're not trying to create traffic. In fact, I didn't even care if we put a sign up, because we're not trying to sell anything to the public.
Yeah, you did make a motion.
It's been so long, I forgot if I made a motion.
There's no retail here. You're not going to be selling oysters, shucking oysters, and having oyster waste.
No shucking oysters. We will have a license to sell you a bag of oysters if you come there, or a box of oysters if you come there. Otherwise, I can't buy my own oysters. So the way the law is written for Florida is that I can raise them, I can buy them, I can grow them, I can hatch them, I can raise them, I can bring them up there, and I can't buy my own oyster unless I have these licenses. I can't take one home to my mom's birthday party. So we will have that license. It's about $200 a year, and I would be able to sell you one, but I can't shuck it. And I'm not advertising that. There's not going to be a sign that says on 98 out there, Dr. Turk's office, that says, get your oyster down here. I don't want to compete with the seafood places that are there.
Right.
No desire, I'll sell it to them. That would be better for me, is to sell it to them rather than compete. So that's the extent of the retail.
We're good? Further
No
discussion?
I can't think of a better business to put in a fishing community, a dying fishing community. I mean, I can't think of a better business. I think it's something that we need to approve, and I'm gonna vote for it. But I think you'll be a good steward of the property there, and I think we'll answer the others' concerns. But I mean, that's what Panacea is about. It always has. My whole life has been a fishing community. This certainly is putting back that kind of business that needs to be there. So.
And folks, we don't want to go back and forth all night. Do you have something substantial to add to the conversation? If you will, come up just briefly, quickly. And Dr. Turk as well.
While he's coming, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the site, there's already two businesses on that road. I mean, if you come into there, there's a business on either side of the street. So I'm just saying.
I'm not opposed to that at all. I'm grateful for Mr. Anthony's generosity and toward the town. I just want to know how we might stay engaged with the process in an ongoing way other than just saying, hey, Bob, how's it going? If there's a way we can deal with the county so that we're well informed and,
After this meeting, the best thing to do is stay in touch with
So,
staff, because we won't see it again after
This
tonight.
summer.
That's fine.
Planning director is going to come back as a site plan approval. She'll take care of it administratively in-house, so you'll be able to see the terms of that site plan at that.
Summer remembers what Bob committed to.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, if his business doesn't work, can it be rezoned residential?
Anything's possible.
I mean, because that is a possibility.
You can buy it and ask for rezoning.
Yes, sir.
Because you don't never know what the next group's going to do.
Almost anything that can
I
be done
trust
can be
Bob and them,
undone.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
can't do anything but orchard stuff, so we were in a box.
Very good. Further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
This is a complicated.
All right, we'll go to planning and zoning, item number 14.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for a final plat, FP 1801. This is for Scenic Stream Phase 3. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the County Code, each commission member needs to disclose any contact you may have received regarding this application.
None.
No.
Only briefly here tonight to say hello. That's about it.
None.
I'm going to say I talked to Ben just in case I did. I'm sure we've talked about this at some point.
If there is anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and Ben's the only speaker if needed. You want to speak?
You don't need to speak.
All right. Further discussion from the board?
David, y'all got everything worked out? And by the way, Ben, tonight, if I could stray just a little bit on the consent agenda, we approved the inspection process moving forward, like I was telling you about. So from now on, a developer will have some assurance when they get to the end of the process, they pass their inspections, won't go through what you've gone through.
Very good. Further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. The remainder of our planning and zoning items have been tabled. That ends planning and zoning. We have no scheduled commissioner agenda items. County attorney,
Nothing this evening.
county administrator.
Staff met with DEP on Friday. We will be applying for the $500,000 grant for our feasibility, sewer feasibility and master plan. We'll be applying for that here shortly, as soon as we get all our ducks in a row to apply to DEP for that funding. Also, any day now, DEP will be sending out information for the septic tank abatement or program, to where if someone their septic tank fails and they want to, and they'll be required to put in a performance-based system. DEP will pay up to $10,000 for that system. There'll be guidelines that will come out with that that DEP will have in the flyers. As soon as we get it, we will forward that to all our list of folks that we normally forward that out to. So just to let you know, that's coming. It was supposed to come out today, but I've not seen anything, and we told them we would hold off until we got that from them.
Along that same vein, there's a meeting Monday at 9:30 at the Health Department in Leon County about how they're going to roll in these new nitrogen. This is intended for septic contractors. So I'm going to go to that, because maybe they'll actually say, in plain terms, here's how you need to build these passive systems.
Yeah, I have one statement also. How many items are performance-based? Will there be more than one choice on performance-based?
It's not performance-based, it's nitrogen reduction.
Well,
yes, there's several
just
choices.
mentioned the word.
There's right now there's choices coming up.
Yeah.
But right now the one that the state has talked about is the same one that we're using, the advanced system that's being used right now.
Most
But there's
people
more
use
that's going to be
the FAST system, and
Right.
most people use that. But the problem with the FAST is you got to have a maintenance contract, annual operating permit.
That's what we want to try to get away from.
Much
Yes.
more interested in the passive systems, and that's why I'm going to go
Because
to this.
they have to pay an annual probably inspection and all that, and that's just nonsense.
The passive systems are pretty simple, but the logistics of building one are what makes it a little complicated. But I got some ideas.
And these state grant funds will be available not just for failed systems. If someone wants to go ahead and replace their
Yes.
system, they can opt in and the state will.
If they're within an area that will have septic tanks, like if you're in an area where we're currently installing sewer, they won't give you one of these. So, and what it'll be is awarded to, the way the process was explained to us is once the system go through the Department of Health will okay the septic tank provider that's going to do the construction. They'll actually do the construction, then apply to DEP for reimbursement after everything has been inspected and approved by DOH.
Very good. So we'll publish that as soon as we
As soon as it gets in here, we'll publish it.
Very good. Anything further?
I think that's it.
Citizens to be heard? None. Discussion items from commissioners? Randy?
I got two things to talk about. I'm glad Laura was able to stick around. I was just going to give the Regional Planning Council a couple of plugs. They received a $63,000 grant to set up GIS systems for 8 of the 9, everybody but Leon County. So Franklin County, Liberty, Wakulla, right? Are you familiar with the GIS stuff or no? No, okay. But I talked to Chris and Richard about it, and it's going to have us a GIS system set up. Initially, it's going to put the future land use map on it. Summer said we already have that, so we may be able to just give them the shape files, and they're going to spend as much of the grant money as they can to put what we want on there. Zoning, I think, was the next one. LIDAR, to me, would be fairly important. Maybe the flood maps, but this enables us to have the base map. So if David says, look, guys, I want to identify every fire hydrant in the county, we maybe pay them a couple $1,000s. They put all our water, our sewer lines, all our manholes can be on this. It's in the cloud, and it's accessible. We do not have this right now, right? Mm-hmm. We have LIDAR. You can't look at it unless you go to the property appraiser's office and they print you out a little map. You can't just click on a screen. And this will, I think it's going to be a big game changer for the small counties. And just to service, they got the grant. They're going to do all the work. It ain't going to cost us anything.
Good.
And it's going to be really good for us. And it's also going to be downloadable too, by the way, because another commissioner asked about that. If a site selection person comes in, they'll be able to download, not just look at it, but actually download it and put it in whatever system they use.
That's carrying on the GIS. That's something we'll be doing. First thing is GIS in all of our roads, stormwater facilities,
yep.
All that stuff. That's on the top of our priority list.
It'll just be a layer in a program then, and if staff wants to use it, fine. If a citizen wants to use it, they can use it, you know.
So it's overlaying the existing property appraisers' data, is that
No,
right?
they're building a new
It's going to be a
map.
separate location.
Yeah, and we'll take whatever data we want from the property appraisers and put it on there, but we probably won't end up with partial IDs and all that kind of stuff. They can get that from the property appraiser. But we could put that on there if we wanted to.
And we've got to have our own. We got to have our own
I got
GIS.
you.
We have a.
Right now, we don't even have a
large-
starting point. Now we got a free starting point.
Right.
We pay our dues. This is one of the things we're getting out of it. Lots changed since I became chairman, right, Summer? Right? Right, there you go. They also got a grant for Sop Choppy. Laura, if you want to talk about that briefly.
Yes, of course.
And this is through the Planning Council also, right?
It is. Hello, Commissioners. So the City of Sop Choppy received a $25,000 Competitive Florida Partnership grant through DEO. And we work closely with Apalachicola Regional Planning Council. Appalachia Regional Planning Council, excuse me. They are a wonderful resource to the City of Sop Choppy, and we're proud to be partners with them. They helped us initially apply for the technical assistance grant through DEO, and then there was enough foresight within DEO that they realized that they could slide us over to the Competitive Florida Partnership Grant, and we were able to, out of 11 cities in the state of Florida, and the second smallest city in the state of Florida was awarded $25,000, which would be incredible for us going forward. It'll just help us figure out more economic development, bettering our local businesses, how to enhance our local businesses, and pull that all together over the next year.
So far, they haven't charged you anything to get this grant for you, correct?
No, actually, ARPC just offered to help us initially. Now, we did pull them into our grant that we wrote.
They're going to get some of the grant money. Of course.
Eventually, if we got it. But they were a huge resource in helping us apply for
This
this
is
grant.
what I've been saying for years. Nothing else, use them to bird dog grants. And if they get them, fine.
That's right.
Let them do the work. If they don't get them, we ain't lost nothing. Don't cost anything.
Well, in addition, just at last month's meeting, we entered into an interlocal with ARPC to help us come up with a placemaking beautification.
Downtown
project.
revitalization, right?
Yep.
And how much is that going to cost you guys?
Just under $5,000.
That's cheap. That's a lot cheaper than other consultants,
Yep.
right?
So we're working hand in hand with them, and we will be doing so for the foreseeable future.
We need to take advantage of they're there.
Yeah, they're
cheap.
amazing. They really are. Richard, he's amazing, and they really help us a lot.
He's been added in the last couple of years, Richard has.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy, anything further?
One more thing. I hate to say this. I used to work for the state when I was in college for DEP, and it's real easy for government employees to become complacent in their job. And I just wanted to publicly give David Edwards credit. This meeting he did with these citizens the other night, he didn't have to do that. And all these meetings with these Wakulla Gardens people, after hours, I got to give it to him. He's certainly not complacent. He's going above and beyond what he's required to do, and I just want to publicly thank him for doing that.
Thank you, Randy.
That's never been done before.
And we're getting good feedback from the participants in that. So.
Well, and also our staff, they were there and they've been there every time I ask them to come. They're there, so they don't shy away from showing up.
Nice.
Well, it's just the general, Mike, you've been around long enough to know that things are running a lot smoother than they have in the past.
Yeah, and I said that the other day when I talked about the past year, how much easier it is to get things done.
And seems responsive to citizens, and does a lot of the stuff. So,
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chuck?
Nothing to it.
David, can you tell us a little bit about the floating dock grant that we got?
We haven't we've got the letter of award, but we haven't gotten the grant document yet. It's $200,000 grant from the Florida Wildlife Commission that will actually put will install a floating dock to the north of the fixed dock at Rock Landing. Right. So where this will allow, what it mainly will allow is the oyster boats to be able to rent a space and be able to have a place where they can keep their boats. Right now, the problem is the reason we need this there is the way it was designed and everything. There's no way to tie your boat up, no way to get off your boat. It was just really a very poor design on how to work. So this fixes that to where it become a commercial dock and a usable commercial dock, I should say.
Right. Very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I have a question on the swap with the Forest Service for the rec park.
Yes, they're waiting on the federal government right now. They're still out in California fighting fires. The last word we got last week.
And how about 5G? What do you made an application?
Believe it or not, I got the letters from Senator Nelson as well as Representative Beshears. They helped a group out of Atlanta with Verizon called us, and they said we're one of the first in the nation to, especially in the southeast, to request 5G and to be put on that. Now, understand that they're just deploying it in the larger cities now. So they said they are checking to see about rushing up 4G in our county, as well as doing some other things to boost up their signal in our county. They're extending fiber currently now from Pensacola, and they're going to extend it through the county, even though we already have a fiber leg. They want to put their own fiber leg in. So we talked to them. I talked to them about Smith Creek. They said that's a very real possibility. They just got to get the fiber to the county. So they said we're on the front line of 5G when they get ready to do it on the on the rural side. So, like I say, I'm proud that we're one of the first communities in the United States to get up on it, but it's still going to be a little
Maybe
bit.
in Smith Creek, they can use that mystery antenna that was out there on Ted Langston
Yeah,
Road, remember that?
yeah, that maybe it'll tie into that mystery antenna that the UFOs put up. But
Cable running out to the woods.
The problem is Verizon's not willing to boost their signal at Smith Creek until they can't boost it until they get fiber out there, and then once they get fiber there, they will put a signal in there because they want to do it. She stated that they want to do that because they're getting requests from the state as well because the evacuation route. What's that road from Caravelle to
65?
65. They use that as an evacuation area, so the state forest, state patrol, and those folks want that as well. So that's the reason it's kind of being
Chuck
looked
said
at.
maybe 67.
67. Yeah, whatever that.
65, 67, whatever.
Every road around here is either 61, 65, or 67. So anyway.
My brother has cell phone signal at Smith Creek, by the way, with a booster.
Yeah.
Just a little bit about our oyster business. It's sort of slow go, but we're probably selling maybe 50,000 combined. All the farmers are selling maybe 50,000 a week, and it's growing from there. And probably I saw a report, maybe 150 people working. I would think that would be more like 75, maybe 80 people who are working pretty much full time. So it's slow go, but it's absolutely growing. And it will be an industry here in a short time. So basically, ask your restaurants when you go to eat if they're serving Wakulla oysters, because they ask us to buy Wakulla, so there's no harm in asking them to sell Wakulla. So ask your restaurants if they will, if those oysters you're buying are Wakulla oysters, because they are available.
All right, motion to adjourn.
We stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Laura, you made it.
They call them a little back like this.